for 3 years, so it's so great to have people here. And we're at an epic time in history. I'm sure everybody knows that. We're at this turning point where what we know is going to become what everyone else knows. So I'm really happy. Thank you all for being here. It's going to be a great 3 days. We have the best people in the world who've been studying this topic for their lifetime. Actually, I wrote this book, speaking of commercials, called Making Contact, which is a collection of essays by a lot of the people here. And I'm just really excited to be here to learn. Part of being here is also networking with each other, because everyone, how many people have had some kind of experience here? At least, well, look at that, at least 3/4 of the room. And if you haven't, you probably will have some at this conference. But this is really the ultimate UFO conference. And it's beyond UFOs. It's about humanity. It's about us awakening to who we are. So I think it's great to start off this conference with the First Nations people tribute. You know, the people who have been here. The name of this panel is Sky Beings and Native American Law. And like, what is the ancient connection to this phenomenon? What does it really mean? So I have some fantastic people here, and we'll bring some. Well, I can start with Bill Homann right here. Bill Homann, yes, ladies and gentlemen. And when you introduce Bill, you cannot forget Bill's constant companion, the Mitchell Hedges skull, which is the most fantastic crystal skull I've ever seen. Clear quartz crystal, ancient, they've examined it. So Bill and the skull goes back in time, way back in time, to like really prehistory with this skull, and we'll hear more about that. Also want to introduce two people who have been working in the field of Native American studies, Navajo investigators. Let's bring out Stan and Jonathan. Stan Milford and Jonathan Dover. Let's give them a hand. You have a seat anywhere. They've been investigators on the Navajo reservation. They've seen some amazing phenomena. They're going to share what that is and how it connects to the Native American law. And joining them is Marc D'Antonio, MUFON researcher. He is an investigator. He gets, yes, Marc D'Antonio. Great. And we had also Michele Miner. Is she around? No? Anybody? Are you Michele? Oh, you are? Oh, come on down. Yes, aren't you on the panel? Yes, Michele Miner. Yes. Yes.
Next contestant.
You didn't know you were on the panel? Oh, yes, you're in the program and everything. Yes. It's always nice to have a surprise in the morning, right? Good morning. Well, I have to say, this is such a great way to really start the whole day, because it really started on this land with the law and these people, and they've been aware of these sky beings for a long, long time. So why don't we start with Stan and John to talk about your Navajo origins, right? And talk about what the Navajo people believe about the sky people, what their experience is, and some of your personal experiences. You want to start? Stan? John? Stan. Okay. Stan. They've worked together a long time. I mix them up.
Okay. The Navajo people, in their cultural beliefs, talk about sky people, or talk about the star people, basically, that came to them and imparted knowledge. What's interesting is that this is just normal for us to understand these concepts. Medicine men will tell us that people before the gods came to them. And what I find interesting is historically, the Navajo people know about constellations that we cannot see. And they have Navajo names for all these things. Every star up there that you can see, they have names. And it tells me that there was a greater wealth of knowledge in the past. You know, I like to tell people today that we think we're pretty cool because we got digital watches. But these elders know a lot, and they're not going to sit there and just tell everybody what they know. But they have a lot of knowledge, and sometimes it will just absolutely astound you, things that they know about. So we have this situation out there, and a lot of times when we're doing investigations, especially UFO cases, we ask people, why don't you just get a hold of Arizona MUFON or New Mexico MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and have them send investigators up. They tell us if we report it to somebody else, then, and excuse this statement, but a lot of Anglos are going to come up here and all sit around and sing Kumbaya, and those beings will not come back, and those are our gods. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to report it. So a lot of the cases that we have do not go through any database or else. They just happen. Occupant sightings on the ground, things like that. It's pretty common. And so this is the environment.
Wow, great. What about you, John? Yeah. Stan, sorry.
That
John,
was
Stan,
right there.
yes, they've worked.
For me, John and I had a career in law enforcement on the Navajo Reservation. You can envision the Navajo Reservation of 27,000 square miles, like the state of West Virginia, comparison. And that was the area that we patrolled, primarily natural resource enforcement. But we patrolled this area, and I did a little over 23 years as a commissioned law enforcement officer. John, how many years did you have, John?
31.
31. So combined, that's a lot of years to patrol this area. And it's a lot of time to be able to learn, see, and meet people from every corner of the globe. And just like John said, the elders that are there have so much information, and sharing that with John and I, we were lucky to have developed a good friendship with an individual that was named Clifford Mahudi, was a Zuni elder, and Clifford was seen in the Ancient Alien series. Over the years, him and I and John became really close. And him being both a medicine man and a Zuni elder, he taught us so much, especially in relation to what's referred to as star people. When John and him worked together, they would travel to some of these pictograph and petroglyph areas in the canyons and learn of the depictions in these canyons of those people that once occupied these areas that we live in today in the Southwest. And so there is a direct correlation between the Anasazi and these star people and what's depicted within those canyon areas.
Have you had any strange experiences out there?
For me, I have had personal experiences related to what is termed shape-shifting, and in Navajo, what is termed as skinwalkers and that kind of thing. So yes, I myself have witnessed that activity and that phenomenon.
Wow.
Very powerful experiences. Could be very frightening.
Well, thank you. We'll come back to you guys. Thank you so much. So, Mark, what do you think about the fact that there's, I know you're going to say something, but the fact
I wanted to add
okay,
to
go ahead.
what they said. it's not just the American Southwest where these things happen. Let's go all the way to the other side of the world, to Australia, and let's go back years. Let's go back 5,000 years. There are pictographs on walls in caves that show sky beings, sky people, rumored to have come from the sky, live under the water, but have full mastery of the water. And they're called the Wandjina.
They're called the what?
Wandjina. Who's heard of the Wandjina? I see a few hands. So the Wandjina are depicted as garbed up grays, in a sense. They kind of look like the gray that we classically see. And the thing about the Wandjina myth, and they're calling it a myth, right, because the Aboriginal people there have said this and passed on through pictographs and word of mouth. They said that the Wandjina wiped out villages using the water because two boys were captured by the Wandjina torturing an owl. Now, we know the symbolism of the owl and how owls can be seen as grays. Right? I do a talk where I show an owl and the gray, and you can see how those two could be conflated into each other, and the screen memory of an owl could become implanted over a gray. And so because these boys tortured this owl to death in the myth, the Wandjina wiped out their village. Right? So these stories, this lore, if you will, and myths are not confined to the Southwest, and they're actually all over the world. The Australian myth is actually very powerful. So I think that it behooves us all to think about these ancient myths and also consider that they might be real. Now, another thing that happened was that I have seen, did a lecture on this, different types of things that we see throughout history, through artwork, have been depicted in cave pictographs. What am I talking about? The halo. The halo was put around the head of the deities. The Wandjina have a halo. That was put around their heads 5,000 years ago. Well, the Aboriginals in Australia never talked to the Renaissance painters who put halos around our deities. Never talked to the cave dwellers that did the Valcamonica aliens in Italy. Never talked to the Indian folks that have pictographs in Hindu caves showing UFOs shooting beams on helmeted or haloed beings. So this ubiquitous issue is something that pervades, and so the halo is another thing to think about. And I don't know, I've known John and Stan for many years, we're good friends, at least I say so. John does. But I'm curious if the halo has ever shown up in any Navajo sightings or in any of the lore. Have there been haloed beings? I'm getting an answer for the first time. I don't know this.
Anything? No? Not? Well, we can...
The idea of the halo in archaeology has shown up in pictographs and petroglyphs. A petroglyph is something that's carved into the rock. A pictograph is something that's painted on the rock.
Oh.
And so those are the difference. I was a archaeological crime specialist for 27 years, doing that as a specialty. Both me and Stan also did numerous burials, some of them going back 500, 900. So we've had to do a lot of things that are considered taboo in Navajo culture. So we have our own protection rituals that we do because going to these places can actually have, I guess, just to be candid, you would think of them as malevolent spirits that can be at these locations that can actually attach themselves to you, follow you home. They call it the hitchhiker. Stan did an investigation where coins were falling out of the air.
Wow.
And appearing right in midair and just dropping or flying across rooms. that phenomenon actually followed him home. And it just happened last week. So it's still going on.
Maybe you can make that happen today, Stan.
Yeah, we're waiting for that 1943 copper penny to show up. But,
Well,
In talking about the halo, you know, in recent times, John and I have been doing these presentations. We'll have different individuals approach us and say, you know, numerous times have told us, "Oh my gosh, you guys, your aura is blinding. It's really intense," and so their thought is that we each have an aura or energy about us. And maybe that can be attributed to some of these things that people refer to as halos, and in some of these depictions, or there's a halo there. Maybe it's some way tied to an individual's aura.
Well, I think there's so much we can learn from the native culture. First of all, that this is not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for thousands of years, and it's been studied in their culture. It's become part of Native American, Australian Aborigine. I mean, John Mack wrote a book called Passport to the Cosmos, where he looked at a lot of the traditional Native American understanding and around the world about not just that these beings are here, but there's a dimensionality which these hitchhikers and skinwalkers are talking about, that it's another level. It's not like, oh, they're just all physical. But we'll talk to Michele about that a little bit, because you've really studied the kind of multidimensional aspect as a native person, and also your investigation in that part of Utah. So why don't you tell people what you've learned about the phenomena from your own personal investigations?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good.
It's really interesting. To be honest, I was not looking for an experience in Uinta Basin. I was asked to be on a project. It was agricultural based. But all of a sudden, when I was up there actually assessing land, I started to have these experiences with the phenomena from the get-go.
This is up in the northern Utah area,
Yes.
like where that
Uinta
ranch
Basin.
is, where that
Part of it.
skinwalker ranch is. Okay.
So, you know, it's really interesting. I belong to 3 tribes, and one of them is Star People, which is called the Pawnee Skidee. And it's really interesting when you start to investigate the phenomena as you're experiencing up there. What you're finding is, I didn't realize that my DNA was attached to constellations of being the Star People. And while I was up there, I started to interact with the Ute Nation. And with them, what is really interesting, I started to learn their lore, their culture, and the way they looked at the phenomena. I did not know that it was within their culture on their petroglyphs. What they were doing is they had visitations, and they spoke about the visitations that they had, and I learned this through the petroglyphs, through some of the elders up there. It was an amazing experience. We've done 6 years of investigation. We are actually registering electromagnetic fields with myself and Dr. Segala. So some of the lore that's up there is represented in technology as well. So I'll be speaking that out at my time that I speak, but we will talk more about that.
But wait, can you tell us a little bit about what happened to you? I love the personal stories, but I mean.
Okay, sure. Well, you know, I started having experiences with orbs from the get-go, and the energy fields that would exist there. And one of the interesting experiences I had.
Yeah. Sometimes you're dropping out a little bit. You could pick it up off the thing.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
To learn to use the mic. But good morning, everybody.
Yes.
So what happened was, right off, the energy I noticed was different from what I had experienced in the Salt Lake Valley. The other thing was, I started to see things, and I wasn't realizing what I was seeing was real or not. So in my mind, I was thinking, am I going crazy? And then I started having the hitchhiker aspect of it as well. I started to bring home energies. We'd like to say the word entities. You know, you guys are here and you understand that. So they started to come to my home. And so I was dealing with all these aspects of my project while I was up there.
Was a negative entity or good?
Both. I had both going on. So,
how do you get rid of those things? Just in case, you know.
well, lots of prayer, I'll
Okay.
tell you that. It was lots of prayer and going in with a positive attitude in the area. You know, there are two distinct areas that have profound energies there, and one of them I'm going to mention, it's Blind Frog Ranch. I know the owner very well, which I did a lot of healing up there on his ranch with the waters that he has there in his energy zones.
Wow.
So energy was a big thing, you know, distinguishing the energy from the positive and the negative.
But do you think that's something we have to get used to as far as studying this phenomenon, the fact that there are these energies, not just extraterrestrial, they're what are they, would you say, these things?
Well, we're investigating wormholes and
Oh.
and things like that, anomalies of that sort within nature, and you know, there's a lot of components that are involved with that.
So you think that part of Utah has some kind of wormhole vortex that opens up a dimensional doorway?
Absolutely.
And there's beings or animals. What kind of animals did you see, or creatures?
Yeah, there were a couple of creatures we would see.
What did they
up
look
there.
like? In case I,
Well,
I'm
I
almost-
had a visitation, and you know, this is a kind of an interesting. I had visitations from the reptilian race, and
reptilian.
the reptilian race, and they wanted to work with me. And the project I was on had high concentrations of things that people see. Now, when you say those kind of things, you're thinking, why would they want to work with you? I have no idea. I have no idea, because I said no.
Okay.
My higher self, my higher spirits automatically said no, no thank you.
So they left you alone.
No, they did not.
They didn't. Are they still here with you? No.
No, no, no.
Just checking.
I know, that's disclosing. Well, what's really interesting, you know, when Stan said that he brought home hitchhikers, sometimes we have to deal with energies that come with that,
So you have to.
hitchhikers, but when you start to see things visually, there's another aspect of that.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. I know it is serious because it's when these things attach, it's kind of creepy. I mean, it's like you feel them. I mean,
Right.
I know.
Right.
And you
Absolutely.
have to clean your, like sage. I like white sage for that and
Yeah.
stuff like. Well, we'll come back to you, and thank you so much. And Bill, you're not native, but you're carrying around this. This is ancient beyond days. They don't know how old these artifacts are, this crystal skull, this Mitchell Hedges. Do you want to talk a little bit about this and how it connects in with the cultures of the past? Yeah.
I've been drawn lately, 'cause what it is, the skull takes me to different places. I've been around it enough that I learned that if you don't do it, it doesn't work out very good. So it goes around to see because certain people have a connection with it from the past. By bringing it to them, they meeting with it, it's a spiritual release and a deeper understanding. The skull is telling us to remember who and what we are. And so there, 4 years ago, there was a vision. The vision with the skull was there were 4 hands on the skull. There was a yellow hand, a black hand, a red hand, and a white hand. Hands on the skull was telling it's time for all people to come together. We see ourselves, get up in the morning, look in the mirror, and we see ourselves as these physical bodies, but it's time to realize how much more we are than our physical body. And coming in contact with that, that's the message that's coming through the skull is, these ET things and all that. We're at a certain frequency, And the frequency band is so small that we see everything in this band as, oh, it's real and it's a table and whatever. But by getting into our higher self and looking at what we really are and what's really happening here, people that have seen a flying saucer and they think, oh, I've seen a flying saucer, but that's always just the tip of the iceberg. Really went into your subconscious. There's a very strong connection there. The people in this room that are drawn to this, there's a reason to it because your higher voice is open to who and what you are. And we are sky people here physically, chosen to come, most of us at this time, because it's a very important time. It's a time just like at Atlantis, where the energies were fighting each other. And, we think, oh, it's so, there's bad people in the world. But basically, they all are part of the same, and we all are working together. Negative is getting people off the couch, moving from the stands, watching the game. Oh, they should do this, they should do that. Into the field and start playing thing by taking back who and what we are and raising our consciousness to this higher level. That is what's happening back in Atlantis. That's what happened in Lemuria, 3 or 4 other times before that. And as we think we're the most advanced people in the universe ever, there's nobody more advanced than us. That's, have such a ego problem there. But if you really look at it and go back in time and see, in Atlantis they used the crystal, and that's one of their power sources for flying and energy and everything they did. And we're just starting to open up that field of understanding. So it's a really exciting time. All depends on us and our minds, because as people with soul spirit connections, those are the ones that are the creators. They create everything. They are the God beings living here on earth. Because think about something, all of a sudden you see the person, or something comes into your life and it starts going, and think, boy, that's neat. I wish I could do it all the time. Well, the only thing it is we have to learn control of our minds, be able to create what we do want, not what we don't want. In this world with all the negative stuff, that's the push to get us off the stands and into the field, because the negative stuff is putting our energy in a negative way. Go into that negative way, we're creating all this stuff that we seem to hate or don't like. But if we take our mind and put it in a 0 point, and then what do you want for yourself, your family, your friends, and your world, and build that and see it. And there's nothing that will stop it from happening, because we are the creators. And it's the time to do that. And I work a lot with the indigenous people, and I have that great love and connection. That and the skull is wanting me to work even more, because they have the knowledge of the sky people. They have the knowledge of the land, being in one with the land. And, here we want something, we take it, we break everything up, we cut it, we take all the resources out of it, and we leave a big mess. They know the way of how to be in balance with nature, with animals, and life, all life. And that is their blessing that they have, and we are realizing this is the time for that information to come out. I was, indigenous. I worked with Grandfather Martin very closely, and he was the prophet for the Hopi Nation. His daughter, Mildred, and her husband adopted me into the Hopi Nation, and because of that, that's part of my family too. But as soul beings we are, and we are our short lives here are so little and nothing compared to overall time. In ourself, we've had all these different lives, and we have to work on forgiveness of ourself, forgiveness to other people, because if somebody's doing something to you, well, if you really go back into your study your soul path, there's probably a time where you might have been doing it to them. You know, that pretty much as it's like ping pong. I hit the ball to you, you hit it back to me. So it's a matter of saying, forgive and free you, all planes, all places, all times. You are free, and I am free also. Send it out with God's love. We can all make a difference, and we make a big difference in the world. So I think that's what I really believe in, and really what I work for. The skull came here at a time when the world needs help, and in my opinion, I think we're at that time right now.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. So, understanding that, and one of the things the skull is bringing through is universal love, and that is the most powerful force in the nature, more powerful than all the bombs and guns and everything. Because if we get into a negative fight with someone, you're shooting at them, they're shooting at me, the people that are working on, call them no souls, is what they are. They don't have the connection between soul and spirit. So what they're doing is not creating, but taking energy from other people. So if you got your mind into their way, they use your fear and everything to make themselves stronger. So that's why it's so important, why universal love is so powerful, that going into that, we can create a world that's good for us, our family, our friends, and our world. And that's the beauty of right now. Things are happening so fast, and astrologically, things are moving, but it's giving us a time to take back our power. The entities that watch us here on the earth, they know that everything we do here is we're building ourselves 100 or at least 10,000 times more than you would on the other side, because we're in this dense negative world. We've forgotten who and what we are, what we're capable of. We have to start from scratch. And then we have people, parents, friends, and everything, it's putting blocks in our way, telling you can't do that, you can't see something that they think is not there. And so it's our fight to take back that power, take back the fact that we are God, men and women that have the power to make a difference in the world. And that's pretty much what the skull is saying, and sending you all lots of love.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Thank you, really. Yeah. I just want this is a gift from some ancient people, and we're really fortunate to just have this in our presence. I always thought crystal skulls were a little creepy until I actually met one. You know, when you meet one, I think you'll be doing sessions. When you put your third eye up to it, you get there's like some kind of higher energies going through this. And even just looking at the back, you know, there's a scrying technique. You kind of look at the crystal and you can start to see pictures, and there's information coming to you from your higher mind via the skull. So these are magical objects. This has a removable jaw. It's cut from one piece of crystal, and it's probably, what, 20,000? I mean, no one knows how old these are, right?
I'm hearing it's pretty much at the beginning of the time.
That's the beginning of time, he says. I said that's pretty old, yes.
That's pretty old.
Yeah. No, but these really are magical. Actually, I'm doing a whole Crystal Skull conference in Sedona in November that Bill will be at, because these are tools, like all the things, like the multidimensional aspects that human beings are now opening up to, that this level of reality is just the simplest there is, 3D, and that's all they want you to think there is. But there's so much more happening. There's so many levels, and we are part of that multidimensional reality when we step outside the matrix and allow ourselves to have these experiences. So have an experience with this skull. You'll be here all weekend, right? And just having sessions. And I want to go back to the MUFON guy over there. And Marc D'Anthony, and say, Marc,
Antonio.
So what is MUFON, because you've been there since 70s, did you say, move on?
Yeah, I'm not Mark Anthony. I think that was a
Oh,
famous
Mark
historical figure.
D'Antonio.
D'Antonio, yeah.
That's somebody
okay.
else,
No,
Mark.
no worries.
Sorry, Mark
I did
D'Antonio.
wanna-
But anyway, how does MUFON, because they're pretty much, taking just track of the 3D in a sense. How do they make sense of these multidimensional aspects, the Native American folklore? How do they integrate that into their kind of knowledge base?
I can answer that in a second, but I wanted to follow on to
Oh,
something
sure,
Bill
sure.
said. Just a little experiment to show how what he was talking about, the here and now, and what we see with our eyes is not all there is. A little experiment, all of you right now. Okay, how many of you have thought of a friend you haven't talked to in many years, and suddenly the phone rings and it's them? Raise your hands. Look at all the hands. Congratulations, you passed the experiment. Okay, what does this mean? What's going on there? This is something that's really important. That's something that we pass off every day because, hey, what a coincidence. That's what science says. Did all those hands look like a coincidence to you? No, they didn't, did they? So what that is, in my view, now I'm an astronomer. This is what we look like, right? Just funny sometimes. Okay, but the point is, we sometimes investigate other parts of science. And one of the things that I looked at is this part of science. And I know, for instance, that when we talk to each other, we're talking with our voices, you're hearing with your ears. But you're communicating using other methodologies, right? We all know that. You just showed your hands to show that this is true. So what's happening? We are connected in a way that we can't explain with science yet. So the scientists are sitting there going, I don't have any idea what this is, so let's call it coincidence. Yeah, coincidence. It was a coincidence. It was just a coincidence. I was just thinking of you and you called me. Wow, what a coincidence. Let's go get some pizza. Right? But it's not coincidence. Somebody is sending out a signal and you're getting it, and whether you're deciding to call them or they call you, doesn't matter. The signal made it to you. And that investigation of that channel of communication is yet done. No one's done that. But isn't that cool? You saw all the hands go up.
Yeah,
There it
thoughts
is.
are things,
The answer's right in
yes.
front of you. Now, to answer your question about MUFON, how does MUFON handle...
Yeah, handle the multidimensional aspect of all
Well,
this.
I'm going to kind of talk about that today at 2:15. Not the... It's called, the talks yesterday are here. What it means is we're going to talk about ways at the lay level that physics might actually be able to help us explain how they actually get here, how they actually work. They being craft from other worlds. All right, we'll stick with it. Craft from other worlds, right? And they do use, in my view, an interdimensional capability. Right? And we're going to talk about how that works. Now, MUFON doesn't investigate that, but what they see are the symptoms of its use. Okay? I call them something that every 15-year-old loves. I call them skid marks. Skid marks of an alien race that's using advanced technology. And those skid marks are just the residual effects that we can see in our 4 dimensions of X, Y, Z moving through. And those skid marks, in fact, are what we see in MUFON, in the reports. It's what's reported to us. So that's like you going to an accident, seeing the tire screech marks on the road and trying to figure out what the car looked like. Right? Kind of hard. So we're crippled at this point. We can't see into these other dimensions yet. However, science is catching up, and we're getting there. Now, the answer lies probably in string theory, and Michio Kaku would agree with me on that. Okay? If it lies within string theory, then everything that's been said here today doesn't change. The meaning isn't affected. The origins aren't affected. All it means is that we're trying to pierce the veil of whatever they, or it, or the group of them, alien sky people, are using to communicate, be here, move among us. You know, I've had strange experiences. Science guys aren't supposed to have strange experiences. I had an implant.
You had an implant, you
It
said?
disappeared from the hospital a week after it was taken out. Yeah. I had a very frightening encounter that made me move out of my last house because I was I was terrified for 3 days of something coming in at 3:15 a.m. every single morning. Till in the final morning, it shoved something up in my sinus. Okay? And that was a whole other event. I've had experiences in my workshop where I would go down and I see a shadow thing over by the wall. And when I went over to touch it, it felt malevolent. And I stayed out of my shop for a month.
Wow.
I got in trouble with government contracts. I do model making, and my company is FX Models. I build models for the Navy, and I was not doing the work. I wouldn't go in the shop. So finally, I said, I can't do this anymore, and I charged down those stairs. I said, get out of my shop. I stood right in it and yelled and screamed, and poof, it was gone.
Wow, that was
A moment
brave.
later,
Yeah.
I heard a cricket. It was under a shelf. And I looked down and I said, my mother was Passamaquoddy, Native American part.
Yeah.
So I've been tuned into creatures all forever. And I knelt down, and I don't know why I did this. I held out my hand, and it crawled into my hand. It was chirping in my hand, going, well, there's something you don't see every day. And I put it outside and said, well, here, you have a better chance out here. And I thought about it later, and I realized, chirp. He chirped because the danger was gone. You know? And if you're in the forest and you're hunting, where the crickets are chirping, there's no game, because there's nothing to bother them. Where they're quiet, well, that's where the game might be. So for the northeastern native tribes, Passamaquoddy, they would use that technique. So I was like, wow, this stuff's real. It was quite an enlightening experience, you know. But I'll tell you, that's probably why I'm on the panel.
Well, no, thank you.
Not just because I know these guys. I do know them. They're really cool.
I just want to comment
Get their autograph.
on the skid mark remark that
Yeah.
you said. I just saw my cousin Vinny and that movie. He wins the
You
case.
watch that on the plane too? Did you take
Yes.
Delta?
Anyway, never mind. But thank you for that, because I think you bring up some really good points that we have to really get used to the fact that we are these multidimensional beings. We're not just physical, and I think that's part of what the Native American, Navajo, Zuni, this is what Clifford Mahoney was all about. So, John, does your culture kind of talk about that to, their young people, about there's more than just this reality going on here?
Well, there's a lot of different evidence. And understand that we deal in evidence in our jobs. The paranormal investigations that we did represent less than 1% of our duties. So less than 1%, but it became significant because nobody else would do these type of work. There were a lot of taboos associated with it, a lot of fear. And we found out over the years, you go into a haunting investigation and you show fear, that entity, whatever it is, that energy, will latch onto that and it'll be able to manifest itself even more. So we've actually talked to producers that said, well, can you show us a little fear when you go into this thing? And we tell them, it's going to be very boring for you because we don't allow that to happen. We go into these things, we do what we need to do, we help who we need to help, and then we leave and, of course, do our protection stuff.
But how do you get over the fear? I mean, there's something there, you don't know what it is, it's haunting, like what Marc just said. How do you overcome the fear?
For myself, and I spent most of my life studying martial arts from junior high age. And to me, it's almost like having the ethic of a samurai, where you start to think of yourself as already dead. And so because you're already dead, it doesn't matter if you get injured or killed, you have a job to do. If you don't do that job, nobody else will. Just like I was an EMT. If you get to an accident scene, there's people with traumatic amputations, head injuries, bleeding all over the place, and you look at them, and if you freeze up, somebody's going to die. So you have to just steel yourself to what you're doing and do your triage and find out, okay, this one's first, this one's next, this one's next, this one's irrecoverable. So you're not even though they're alive, you're not going to worry about them, because if I have to maybe do CPR on somebody, there's 4 other people I can't do anything with, and they're going to bleed to death. So there's a lot of decisions to be made. What I was going to talk about really is this aspect. Me and Stan have lived with this every day of our career. You've all heard of this sixth sense that people have.
Gut instinct.
Your gut instinct. Sometimes you go into a situation, you say, whoa, maybe I shouldn't be here. And you know, things like that. Well, we've heard it as guardian angels watching over us. We hear a lot of everybody has a different viewpoint, and it's based on how we perceive it. If you come from a religious background, you're going to see religious iconography in these things. We have gone into situations that were, dangerous. People were shooting at us. You go into a house, and all of a sudden that voice, in your mind tells you, don't go through that door. You back up. And this is the thing with police officers and firemen. They charge into danger. We saw this at the World Trade Center when it collapsed. All these firemen ran into the building, and they all got killed. So you have to think and let this voice talk to you, and it'll keep you safe. So we've had this happen numerous times, and we learn to listen to it. And I tell you what, it's saved us so many different times that, we can't even count the number. As an EMT, I got to the point I had to travel 125 miles to get to work every single day, Monday through Friday. I'd
That's
leave before,
one way.
I'd leave before sunup. It's a 2-hour drive. And I would end the day about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'd start driving home, another 2 hours to get home. On the way, if there was an emergency, I was on duty. I was in a marked vehicle. I was in uniform. So I would have to, if it's a man with a gun, barricade suspect, homicide, whatever, if there's a medical emergency, an accident, and there were 6 different directions I could go to get home. I would mentally take a stick and throw it up in the air, and wherever it landed, whichever way it pointed, that's the direction I'd go. They tell you in law enforcement, you never pick the same route in the same direction, the same time, because somebody can ambush you. And I've had attempts on my life in the past. So I took these lessons very seriously. As I'm on my way home, every time I went, there was a medical emergency, there was some kind of emergency that I would have to attend to. I didn't get home sometimes till 2 in the morning. Then you still had to get up before daybreak and start it all over. So this was my life. Sometimes 2 in the morning, people would be banging on my door. They'll go, there's an accident 10 miles west. And then you ask them, point the direction. They point to the east. So you learn all these little tricks. All I'm saying is that these things that happen, there's a reason. I got to the point where I had saved so many lives. Many of them, I don't even know who they are to this day. And I'll have people come up to me and say, you remember me? You saved my life. You stopped an arterial bleed. And I have no idea, after all these years, who they are, because I never followed up. I don't keep score. But I was in the right place at the right time, and I accepted it. So Stan, same way. He's been in many, many situations where he's either had to back up or move forward and stayed safe because of it. So, yeah, these things are real. They happen. We don't know why, and we try not to block it off. I've had numerous sightings of, okay, I'm going to say it, disc-shaped craft.
Okay, thank you.
There's a joke there.
It's an inside joke. We had a friend go to a conference, and they misspoke, and it didn't come out as disc-shaped craft. And
This shape.
we died laughing afterwards. But,
Came back to life to tell the story.
yeah. So we have fun. You know, we make fun of each other all the time. And
You have to have some humor in this kind of work.
You know, thank you for your work. I mean, I just want to just thank you for your dedication to humanity.
I was so glad to retire.
If it's not this shaped craft, what would that be?
So
Think hard.
I retired in 2011, and I play guitar, so I had always wanted to. My main interest was 5-string banjo. I wanted to learn how to play bluegrass. I bought a 5-string banjo. I said I'm going to have at least a month off here to start teaching myself. A week and a half later, I was working for another company, making medical devices. I was doing manufacturing, making peripheral artery stents and aortic stents. And I like to say they promoted me to the level of my incompetence, and I started doing maintenance and calibration, keeping $1 million machines running at night, sometimes 40 to 50 machines in the room. My job was to keep them running. Tolerances down to a thousandth of an inch. And I retired from there. Now I'm on Social Security.
Okay. Well,
I'm so happy because I got there before they cut me off
well,
or increased the age.
maybe we'll hear some bluegrass later. Okay.
Yeah, the banjo's still there. I'm still waiting on it.
Okay.
I'm even more busy now, and
Well,
that's okay.
Let me ask Stan here. Thank you, John. Yeah. What is it about, in the native culture that allows you to be aware of this multidimensional aspect that we've been talking about? Is there some different aspect of education that...
Well, I think one of the things is that growing up within that culture, you're hearing these stories and teachings from your elders, from your great-grandparents and grandparents. And I think it becomes a part of your view of the world. I mean, you're told stories, the creation stories of the Navajo people. One of the things John and I had come to really a realization or understanding is that all of these different things that we were investigating that would be termed supernatural or paranormal, there was a correlation in that. Whether it was these things that people refer to as Bigfoot or UAPs or UFOs, the hauntings, even the witchcraft and shape-shifting things, that there was a correlation to other dimensions. And just like what Marc referred to, the string theory. And in the creation story of the Navajo, they talk about the Dene, or the Navajo people, having come through what was referred to as a reed into different worlds and different planes of existence. Well, to me, and what they're describing is those different dimensions. The beings that are within each one of those different worlds were described differently. And I later was told by a scientist from Mexico that said, he's seen our presentation, and he said, Stan, you know, what you're referring to is those different worlds, different planes of existence, whether it's angels and demons, commonly referred to in different religions, or these things that people call extraterrestrials and alien individuals, or Bigfoot. These are all in different planes of existence, and from time to time, we will see the result, let's say, with spirit activity. Something will be crossing over into our physical world. It may move things. What people may actually see apparitions of spirits and things, and but these are just different beings from different worlds coming into our physical world. They'll manifest, and we'll experience it, and then they'll be crossing back over into another plane of existence.
You know, I want to ask Michele about that aspect too, that maybe the veils between these worlds are getting thinner. You want to talk about what you see, what evidence for that?
I think we're going into an age of where our constellations are changing. I think we are coming closer to an awareness that has always been hidden from our natural eye, you know, and Native Americans have always understood the constellations throughout our millions of years of existence here on the earth. I think what's happening, there's a shift going on. I think we are coming to a point where we're starting to see with our natural eye, because we're getting to a point in our own existence that things are emerging in a place where things are not great. Our economics, our political systems, you know, how we treat each other on the earth anymore is not the same. And so there is a gathering going on, I do believe, that we are starting to see things in a way, and we're gathering together as a people to understand that we're not living alone. We never have been. And so what's happening with our Native American culture is we're losing the language, we're losing the traditions, and we are a people who have always had oral traditions. So we pass down these stories, and you know, it's like Stan was saying, we have these emergent stories about the different levels of progression. And I think it's always been in our culture. I think it's been a part of who we are as a people. And, you know, if we don't teach our youth these traditions, we're going to lose just even the aspect of learning who these deities and interesting people that we hear about in our stories.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to hear those stories, to know that, you know, it was a culture beyond technology. Their technology was nature, right? And
Exactly.
but I think also that the world is shifting in its vibrational rate.
Frequencies are
And so
changing.
how do we start to get used to these other vibrational fields? How would you suggest? I mean, I like what Marc did, just say, you know, get out of here, but, you know, but
Well, it
Sometimes
depends.
that's what you have to do.
sometimes you
When
have
you
to.
have these
Yeah.
negative energies
Yeah.
within your home, and they are forcing themselves into your home and into your family, sometimes you have to be very aggressive, and you've got to stand your ground as the homeowner, as the resident there, to say, stop, you've got to get out of here. This isn't your space, and I'm letting you know now you have to leave. And
'Cause
you
they're-
have to be very aggressive.
They're not greater than us. They may try to scare, but, you know, we're on a
We're
soul
here
level.
now.
Yeah,
Physically.
exactly.
So I
I-
did the right thing, Stan? I did the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You did
oh,
the right-
yes,
Wait,
definitely.
well, go ahead, Michele.
I think our bodies are not used to that frequency, to be honest. I think we see things from a negative and positive point of view. And maybe we're not used to that frequency within our own body, so we call it negative. And maybe it's a form of communication. And our bodies maybe are not adept to handle or absorb that kind of frequency and be able to So we look at it as, let's get out of here, but there are spirits out there who are hurt.
And there's others that want to help us, of course,
Exactly,
too.
exactly.
So we have to come to that neutral place in a sense. But I also think this a object like this, a vibrational object like this, helps increase the field. Do you think that's true, Bill? I think we're in the presence of whatever this magical device, I call it that is here. Do you want to give us a little meditate or focus on? You want to help us focus on that to help us?
Well,
I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, what it is,
Come closer to the mic.
things are changing now so much, but it's people are being awakened to things, that realizing that there's more to life than 8 to 5, that we have this spiritual side of us, and as we come into that understanding, and it has to do with the last number of years, especially since 2011, 12, that the changes have been subtle but greater, and everything is falling into place. They say the universe moves, and it's moving into an area of photon energy, higher photon energy, and light. And that light is awakening the soul, spirit. And there's been so many astrologically things in the last so many years, 3 or 4 years, and you can, every time you think, wow, this is going to be a big change, and that's the biggest. And then next month, there's another one that things are lining up and things are happening, and this is the time. And it's all coming together, but it's a matter of realizing that we have these guides and help with each and every one of us, and we can ask for the spiritual interventions in our life to make our life easier, instead of walking down the road and walking into a wall, or you're driving down the road and you say, I want to go this way, and that little voice inside says, turn right, and you say, no, I'm going to go this way, it's faster. And you go that way and you're stuck in traffic.
Right.
Now, they don't laugh at you or anything, but they're there to help, but the only way they will help you is you ask them. Because there is a spiritual law. They're not allowed to help you unless you physically, in your mind, say, please help me, please guide me, please be with me. And when they do something good for you, the gratitude is so important to build that relationship with the other side. You all have protectors, guides, but we also have divine entities that will be there and will help you if you ask for their help. So that's exciting things that's now, because as the veil is thinner, this stuff is coming to you right now, and people that never thought about anything more than getting up and going to work, and are starting to feel that there's more to life than that, and that's the awakening that's happening now. And so it's a real joy. So the skull says that there are more than one type of entity living on the earth. There's the ones that have soul-spirit connection, and those are the creator beings. They create everything. And there's also the ones that are new souls or come from various other dimensions that don't have that connection. And if you don't have the connection, the only way you can get energy, power, is from other people that do have it. So if you have someone that's really nice and they're good and they're around you, and all of a sudden they leave and you feel so tired you can't move, they're probably sucking your energy. So it's always important to be aware of it. So you put in your life the people that you give them energy, they give you energy, and it makes you stronger. So that's just a matter of awareness to go into that. So Skull says that one of the most powerful things, too, is the power of prayer. We have that with us. All we have to use it in a positive way. The skull has what makes it so unique. It's made against the grain. It has lenses and prisms that are built inside the crystal itself that would take zero gravity to do it, because they make crystal now and they can form it in the right exact way, but they do it on the space station where there's no gravity. They do it like one atom at a time. So to develop something this size and to have precise lenses and prisms built in it is, how it's just, who did it? But it works really good with meditation because it takes one very easily from the third plane up to the fifth plane and very deep in meditation. So if you want me to do a start a meditation.
Well, before you do that, let me just ask Michele here, how do you recommend shifting to this new vibration and kind of bringing humanity to this new place? And then we'll do the meditation.
Don't resist it. Basically, just go with the energy. Be uncomfortable. It took me 6 years to be up in the Uinta Basin to understand the energy. I always viewed it as a negative response to my body because I was resisting. And the moments I had relief were the moments I was in prayer, that this gentleman was saying. And I started to shift the energy into more positive states. Now, there are fields within that area that are very positive. One being the waters on Blind Frog Ranch started the healing process for me. I didn't realize I had a cataract in my left eye and been in the radiated areas up in District Project, Utah. I was starting to form cataract, and I went on. I know this sounds a little strange, but I went into the waters and the energy zones on Blind Frog Ranch, and I started to heal.
Right.
And I didn't know that I was the first participant. And I related this story to Dwayne Ollinger, and he says, I didn't know that my lands were that blessed.
Wow.
He used that word. And I went to the eye doctor. I get a physical on my eye every year, and there was no indication of cataract at all. So I think, like what you said, is you need to shift into, this is an amplifier, by the way.
It is.
Yeah, it has memory. That's what I was receiving.
Yeah.
There's memory in there of things that happened millions of years ago. And so when we have all those amplifiers to our own self in our DNA, we are the amplifier. And if we can learn to accept the change that's coming on, then we'll be in a better place.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So maybe just like a 3-minute meditation, because it's such a valuable tool for amplification. That
Yeah, just want to say though that I'm learning all the time too, and what it seems to have 3 areas that stand out. The meditation is very good because it amplifies thoughts tremendously. So we get a small group of people together and put out world peace and healing and stuff like that. It's very, very, very powerful. It also works on energy lines in the earth, and that's where it has me taking it all over the place to put it on certain places. Like when I first got the skull, and this is how I started to learn about it, I was called to Australia, and at the time I didn't realize what, but when I got there, the Aborigines were saying they knew I was coming years before, and they were waiting for me. We took the skull out to a place. It was a sun line that was had been opened for hundreds and hundreds of years between a caldera, went through the sea all the way to Machu Picchu. They had me stick in a certain area on the sun line, and then we worked together, and they did a ceremony, and then half an hour later they said, okay, and I just picked it up and left, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So I've been finding out that that is important in getting the balance of the earth and opening up these energy lines. And we, as greater beings, when we work with that energy of the skull and put our minds into it, we have the ability to do that. And it works really good on one-on-one. If you're working, it mirrors your inner self and brings out memory of who you are, your deep self.
So let's just do like a 3-minute focus. Everyone in here, bring the best healing energy to this conference, to our lives.
Can I say it?
Sure.
I'll bring everybody into it?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, just get your feet on the floor flat and just relax, hands in your lap. And just feel the light and love going over your whole body. And as we do that, take several deep breaths, and just as you breathe out, just let all the all the tension leave your body. And this is one of the 13 skulls. And what I have found that they would said you always have to get them and bring them in the same area. Skulls are multidimensional and they connect psychically with all of them as they have since the beginning. So I'm able to connect them. As I do that, I connect all 13 skulls together, and I do it now. With your third eye, just look up into the sky, high in the heavens, and looking, you see this white diamond light coming down from the Creator. As it comes down, just feel the love and let it go right through your crown chakra, through your body, send it deep into the earth, down through the top of the skull, through the skull, deep into the earth, As it goes in, going down to the heart of the mother, and as you touch her heart and you feel her love, it's so tremendous. All living life, all beings, all forms on the earth, that love is coming back up into your heart, your third eye, and we all come together with this light around us, beautiful light. When that happens, just feel the energy flowing into your body, the joy, and the peace. It's time. Bring ourselves now, and as we do together, just come up into the air in your mind, go into the sky. As we do that, send this beautiful light, this sunset light, universal love, around the earth. And as you do it, you can see it in your mind going around the earth. You're doing it, part of you coming through you. Send the love, send the light. Any areas that you see, if you feel there's a family member, area where there's hunger, or if you'd like to send the love to, send it to it now. You are in charge of the love and the light through you, through the world. So now, go. Let it go. And on the count of 5, let us come back. So coming back down to 1, just let the energy flow back through your body. 2, just let it out your fingertips and toes. Just feel that love. 3, just feel all through your body. It's a part of you, and you can share it with all. 4, you're almost back. 5, when you're ready, open your eyes. God's love to all of you. Connection to the other skulls open. Thanking all the divine beings that are here with us. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Because this is an incredible being, the something. It's really a high dimensional. If you go to a little session with Bill and Mitchell Hedges there, you'll feel this awakening. At least I do. So thanks, Bill, for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, yeah.
Blessings to all.
Yeah, no, I think we're really fortunate to have all these beings, this great ancient wisdom here with us. So we'll do a few minutes of question. Anyone have a burning question?
Can I make a comment?
Oh, sure,
before we-
please. Thank you.
I was just going to say, we spoke of awakening. And to me, when you have events like this, Contact in the Desert, the coming together of everyone that's here in the audience, we all have a spirit within us, and we're able to share, just like what you spoke, share love and energy and positive energy. something that each one of us can take away from this experience, take it back to our home and to our families. And I think there is a reason why each one of you are sitting here in this audience. I think there's a reason why each one of us are here on this panel today, to provide some insight and share that with other people. So I do feel this awakening. It's here. It's happening. It's what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think we are at a critical place where we can allow this higher energies to come through. And being in a conference like this, that you don't have to be afraid to tell someone, I had this experience or that experience.
Right.
We're among like minds from all over the world. People are here. So feel free. There's a lot of love here in this audience and this conference. That's what I felt in past years. And it's like there's an opening and acceptance that just makes it okay to be whoever we are and share the ancient wisdom and the future knowledge and bring the planet from here out into the world to this higher vibration. So thank you, everyone. But any here, do you want to? How and where did you find the crystal skull?
Yeah, what it was is this skull was found in 1924 by a British explorer, F.A. Mitchell Hedges, and he was looking for a connection between Atlantis and the Maya. He heard about the city that was in British Honduras, it's now Belize. He had an expedition. They went there and they uncovered 7 pyramids and ball courts and spiritual centers, different things, but they found it in the largest pyramid that was there. And it at the time, there was, and in the 70s when it started bringing out to the public, there was a movie, Miracle of the Gods, with William Shatner, and it was brought these different things, and that was the first time people saw the skull, and it was on the playing all over the world. That the show was kind of a opening up to people's consciousness. But at that time, there was only 3 skulls known in the world: the Mitchell Hedges skull, the British Museum skull, and the French skull. But now they've grown, and there's millions and millions of skulls. They all like themselves. They like each other. They really do. And I find that when I meet people and they bring their skulls, there's always egos and stuff, but the skulls don't have it. They have that love. And the skull's purpose is now, and that's what I found, is to send this love. It does it. It does it automatically. And go into your crystal, into your skull, if you have a crystal skull, and it's really neat because it's like throwing a rock in a puddle. It spreads out. We're all, it's so important to start taking the time to tell the people that's important in your life, I love you. As simple words as that, very, very powerful. That's one of the lessons we're here on earth to learn, is the lesson of love. So that's what it's saying. It's just try it. You'll be surprised as you do it. Even the people, there's somebody that's really mean and you don't like them, send out that love and you see that's how powerful that is.
Yeah, actually, this is the most famous crystal skull in the world right here. And we're going to bring together a bunch of, over 13 in Sedona in November. I'll tell people at the end about this. But why don't we just, Marc, wrap up in a sense, like, what do you make of all this? Where are you going as a MUFON person, as as this veil between the dimensions is being lifted and humanity? We're at such an amazing time in history. It's so great to watch this transformation that's happening. So where does MUFON and you personally take this next level, especially with all the disclosure that's happening and everything that's going on as we become a kind of one world culture in a sense?
Well, if you look at the news cycle, you'll see that more and more you have people in high places speaking about release of data and things happening out there. NASA has a panel. The government has a panel on unidentified flying objects. The Navy's been tracking them for many years, actually, in water. I was a guest, not a sailor, but a guest on a sub. Some of you know the story. And I was at sea, getting seasick, most fun I had ever getting seasick was on a submarine. And I sat with the sonar guy, sort of a quiet area, and I sat there trying to get my stomach back. When I was about to doze off and just start the deep breathing meditation, try and feel better, and out of nowhere, kid yells, con sonar, fast mover, fast mover. And I was like, is that a torpedo? I thought I was going to die, and I was cursing ever going on the trip, saying, I should have stayed home, I shouldn't have come on this trip. But the executive officer walks around the corner and is like, what do you got? It's a torpedo! It's a torpedo! No? And he's like, I didn't say that, of course. And the kid looks at him and tells him a bearing and a range for how far it was and how far off the bow it was. And then he asked him the speed. And I couldn't hear what the bearing and range was because it's noisy on it. This is quiet. These boats are really noisy. All kinds of stuff going on. And then the kid, when asked the speed, turned like this. He held his hands out. And he said, exact words, which I heard because he was loud about it. He was, several hundred knots, sir. And could have heard a pin drop on that noisy sub at that point. The executive officer, you would have thought he would have gone, wow, that's incredible. No, he said, okay, log it and dog it. He went, sir, yes, sir, and got back to work. Now, what's that mean? So I'm immediately, because I felt like, hey, I'm a big shot. I got invited to be in this boat. I'm special. You know where this is going. I walked up to the executive officer. I said, sir, I don't know about these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with, sir? He says, Antonio, right? Sir, yes, sir. He goes, you having a good trip? Sir, yes, sir. He says, let's keep it that way. And I walked back to the sonar seat, excited. I couldn't wait to get off the boat because now I had something that was out there. And a few years later, I'm getting to your question.
Oh, sure, sure.
A few years later, I had to do a job for the Joint Chiefs, the big guys. I was down in Washington. It was a presidential briefing model, actually. And I walked down to the Joint Chiefs office. I sat with him. Actually, it was at his home. And I sat on his couch in his living room. I leaned over, and I was saying in my head, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And the words were already coming out. What's the fast mover program, sir?
Wait, say that again? What's
What's the fast mover program?
Oh.
And he could have said, get out of my house. He said, get out. Or he could have said, I don't know what that is. He didn't. He said, oh, I'm sorry, Mark, I can't talk about that program. It exists. I drove home like this, all the way from Washington back to Connecticut. Okay, a 6-hour drive. I was in a daze the whole way back. So what does that all mean? It means that our navies are seeing things underwater. And because they're not posing a threat at this point, the directive is to observe and report. Observe, report. And that's what they're doing. The Chinese Navy sees them. Russians see them. Our submariners see them. I talked to one guy in a submarine. He says, oh, on our boat we call those jellyfish. Why? Not because they're jellyfish, but because a sonar guy, a sonarman on the boat, has to classify everything he sees. He has to put it in a specific box. There's no unknowns. And that's why the kid had his hands out. Sir, I don't know what to do with this. It's an object I have never seen before, a transient moving fast, several hundred knots underwater. I don't know of anything that does that, is what he was saying to the XO in a sense. What does that mean? It means that our oceans are where they're hiding, I think. I think they go where we are not, so they're underwater. So when you talk about all aspects, you have to say, well, how can anything move underwater at such a high speed? And in my talk today, we're going to talk about that because there is a way that they can do it. They basically oscillate between our dimension here that we're sitting in these chairs in and this fifth dimension that's out there that allows them to just traverse time and space, back and forth. It's an oscillation thing. And when you have it explained to you in a way that you can walk out of here and talk about, then it'll make more sense. But I think that that's something that is coming, and science is catching up. Science is actually removing the veil on how they work. And boy, I'll tell you, talk about it being an exciting time. It's an exciting time. It is.
Thank you for being here. So John, you know, your life's experience has brought you in so many different realms, and, you know, being brought up with all this ancient law and your experiences, where are we going? Where do you see the future looks like as for you and for the planet, as like all these types of phenomena become integrated?
What we're seeing, we often give a shout out to the military when we go to these places, because the military has taken a very keen interest in our talks. We talk about shapeshifters. We talk about UFOs and dimensions. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but when the National Institute for Discovery under Bigelow studied Skinwalker Ranch, that information to this day is classified. They didn't let anybody else know what was going on. And they're civilian contractors, so they don't fall under the Freedom of Information Act. You can't petition the government to release the information. They were charged with looking at 30 different subjects, ranging from areas of dimensional gates, faster than light travel, things like that. We see military people come into our talks, and they're sitting in the back of the room with a clipboard, and they'll be taking notes.
Yeah, I
And-
think we got some.
And then they'll get up and leave before we're done. And so we came to the point where we started giving them a shout out.
So don't leave.
Indian tribes are not very trusting of the government. Okay, we've got a long history,
Yeah.
over 6,000 treaties, and not one of them was ever kept. So, since 1492, when we gave our Homeland Security the day off to go be with family, and Columbus showed up. So, we see this, and then we start asking ourselves, why? Why are they here? Well, we talk about shapeshifters. They want to know how to do this. They want to create soldiers that can shapeshift into animals, go behind enemy lines, and create havoc. The thing is to become a shapeshifter, you have to kill people that you love dearly just to attain that type of power.
You do? Is that part of being a shapeshifter? You have to.
Yeah, in Navajo tradition,
Wow.
that's how it happens. And if somebody discovers your identity and they let you know about it, within 3 days you'll die suddenly. So it is a fearful thing.
Is that still going on? I mean,
And yes, it still goes on today.
wow.
So we've dealt with it all our careers. We've been attacked by them psychically. We take it very seriously. But they use other dimensions to travel great distances in a short period of time. We've even interviewed people that were former shapeshifters, sat down with them and talked with them. And the things they tell us, well, we'll save that for the workshop. We'll talk some more about that later.
Yeah.
But
But the future, what is the future beyond the shape-shifting and all that?
the future is that we actually live in a much stranger world than even we understand.
That's good.
And we can't just say this is the way it is, and that's it. The Navajo culture talks about a concept of balance called the beauty way. And it says that, yes, there's evil, or there's negative and there's positive energy, there's evil or good. We look at it in American society as we have to get rid of evil so everything's good. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not going to happen anytime soon, because we are so violent and so stupid. I think that there's a big sign out there in space that says you can look, but you can't touch. You can't have any contact because these people are way too violent. So we're just coming to an understanding that this is a bigger world. And we need to just sit back and watch and observe, and don't let the TV tell you what to think. Decide for yourself based on evidence.
Thank you, John, for your contribution. Okay. So, Stan, what do you see, and kind of like give us a little insight into what, for the Native people, you know, where do they fit into this big picture that of this world emerging now as well?
In my view, it's beyond one Native group or Native peoples. I think each one of us, as a part of humanity, we've got to come together. We've got to get beyond the violence. We've got to get beyond the hatred. We've got to come together, and we've got to realize as a human race things like war, things like hate crimes, things like rape, things like violence against children. We've got to stop all of these things. They make no sense for these things to be going on. We're hurting innocent people and taking their lives unnecessarily. And we've got to become a more diplomatic peoples of this planet so that the visitors that come here can interact with us without the violence, without these acts of racism. And so that responsibility falls on all of us here. It falls among our children and our relatives. We really need to come together and try to get beyond this, because to me, it's unacceptable. Some of the things, you know, you turn on the news at night, you see some of the things that are happening in this world, and we've got to get beyond those things and try to treat our fellow man a lot better than what we're doing right now.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Bill, what's your work in the future? Like, where are you going with you and Miss Mitchell Hedges there, and what's the world look like to you?
Well, let's see. This is a really exciting time, and the fact is that we're getting close to what's called an ascension. And you know, what it really, that I see it is, it's just a raising of consciousness, coming into this higher consciousness where we're going into remembering a time and place when there was peace and love on the earth, and above the negative that we are experiencing here as lessons that we're being pushed to be that full person or the full entity. I see us going into that. Ascension is coming, and it's coming quick, and it's a timeline change. And if we can come to that consciousness, that higher consciousness, it'll be just like that, and we'll be, it's not like we're going to be lifted up into space or something, into a flying saucer, which is possible. But I really think it's going into this higher consciousness, because what we see here, the world changes, millions of times. Our timelines change all the time, and we're in control with our minds and our hearts to make these changes. So as we come together, we will be able to make this change, and it'll be very easily, very quick, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's going to come, so we might as well go into this higher consciousness and allow that to happen. It's not we have to force it, it's just being it. And you are being guided into this right now by your dreams and thoughts. We're physical beings, but our thoughts through dreams and stuff are what, it's a world that's as real as this world. And we're being taught and trained, and as we increase in our love, we'll come into this this happening.
So are you going to be doing, so how can people have a little moment with the Mitchell Hedges skull?
Okay, well, I'm going to leave here in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I do a lecture, and if it is interesting because I have some of the old pictures were taken at the site in Louvain-Toon by Mitchell Hedges, where he would stick his head. They'd put their head underneath this thing and hold up the flash powder on the glass slides, and we digitize them. So we have some of the old pictures, and kind of tells the story.
And can you do a session? Do you do private session?
Yeah, we do private sessions. I think we're set up for some. I'm going to be doing the lectures, and we're doing meditations, and then you can have, I think, if you have a one-on-one, even just a short half an hour, it's life-changing for a lot of people. But you can never say what it'll do because, I find that if I have 100 people, everyone that comes to see it will get something different. It all depends on what's in your inner self, and it's really an exciting thing because it's a way of changing lives and making a difference in the world, and it's a beautiful thing. I got a good job. I like it.
Yeah. Just gazing at this thing starts to shift your consciousness. I mean, this is in a really
Puts
great
out
treat.
the fun. You feel the fun. Do you feel the love? That's what it's about.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill, for being here with your skull. Of course, we're all carrying around our own crystal skulls right here. But so, Michele, what does the future for your work and for the planet look like to you?
Well, I'm reminded of a story, and it's a personal experience. When I'm a very scientific and technologically based mindset here, and I'm always looking for unraveling and debunking the phenomena. But one thing I'm reminded of is I started to do Native American sweat, and I was taken up into the mountains by somebody who is a friend of mine, and rudimentary tools, no technology, nothing. And they guided me up this hill, and they said, go be with spirit. And at that point, I was like, wow. I had nothing technological with me, but my spirit and my mind. So I sat down, and I started digging bare root. And if you can believe this, Spirit started to talk to me. It told me how much to take and what was appropriate for me to take for myself and my health. And I had forgotten how to connect to Mother Nature. I had forgotten that my roots, my Native American roots, are to communicate with Spirit and Earth. And I just bawled. And the most profound love that overcame me was immense, according to what Bill was talking about, is first we've got to get connected to our own love of ourselves and the spirit that we have with Creator, Great Spirit, Mother Earth, God, whatever you believe in. That's the connections. We are losing our connection to this earth. The violence that Stan spoke about, Jonathan has spoke about how we as Navajos, need to be very connected to Mother Earth. And so I think that's where the future is going. That's why there's an awakening going. I think that's why we're all gathering, is because we're awakening back to what it used to be like. There is a place for science and technology. There is a place for everything. It's a time and a season. Well, the season now is that we're all awakening to a greater purpose in our own lives and being interconnected to one another. And that's where I'm going.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you. When's your workshop here? When will you be speaking?
10 minutes.
And you in 10 minutes. And you, Michele?
I'm Saturday evening, 7:45.
About what's your subject?
It's going to be about the ancient faces from the past.
Ancient faces.
From the past.
Okay.
About Native Americans in the past.
Great. And when are you guys speaking, Mark? Okay. Oh, tonight you guys. And when are you speaking, Mark?
Oh, I'm speaking at 2:15 today.
All right.
And then I'm running the nighttime Sky Tour live stream show, the Universe in Real Time. That is at 9 p.m. Saturday.
Okay, great. Well, so the takeaways I get from this panel is that, first, what Jonathan says, that the world is even stranger than we can imagine. And if we stay connected to spirit, we're going to be okay, because there's nothing greater than us out there. They may be more intellectual, more technologically advanced, but they're not greater than who we are when we connect to spirit. So that's the basic message of the ancient people and the skulls, and everything that we're here today is connect to who we really are, and then we don't have to be a quarantine planet. We'll meet the rest of the cosmos, and that's what's right at our doorstep. So I'm really excited. We're all here. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's been great. And it's okay. If there's any, I have some flyers. If there's any other questions here, anybody pressing question? Okay, what's your pressing question? What's that? Oh, okay. Why don't you come? Okay, why don't you just come up and talk to everyone? And I also have some flyers about the Crystal Skull event. Thank you. My name's Alan Steinfeld. I'll be lecturing on Sunday about interdimensional ETs. Thank you, guys. Really nice. Thank you. Beautiful. You know. Oh yeah. This is a whole multi-dimensional thing we're doing, and anyway, I have more.
Have a session with the skull and starting filled.
Wait, Bill, she wants to know how to register for.
They said it was already filled.
Where's Desiree? Oh, Desiree. Here, pass some.